So it looks like Epic versus Google has finally resulted in a victory for Microsoft. It's Sunday, so let's get sensational. I'm Mike, and I'm back to talk about the gaming news. And a lot of people choose to play games on their cellular phone devices, and Microsoft is aware of this, which is why they've been offering streaming on mobile devices if you're subscribed to Game Pass Ultimate. But if you want to purchase a license for an Xbox game and then play it on mobile, that hasn't been an option. Well, that's going to change starting November 1st, and it's due to Epic Games. So 4 years ago, Epic sued Google and Apple after both companies pulled Fortnite from their app stores. Now, I covered this whole thing in my news videos when it happened back in 2020, and I've come back to it throughout the years when they have major updates, but it's been a long time, so I'm going to do a recap of what happened. Basically, on the mobile version of Fortnite, Epic started letting people purchase V-Bucks using their own payment system, and they offered a discount to players if they paid them directly instead of using Apple and Google's payment systems. Both Apple's App Store and Google's Play Store take a cut of the profits for using their payment systems. So basically they were like, hey, if you pay us directly, it's cheaper. Now, of course, this was a violation of the rules for each app store, which resulted in them pulling Fortnite down and Epic suing both of them for being monopolies. Now, in the trial with Apple, the Supreme Court mostly ruled in Apple's favor, and Epic actually had to pay them for the revenue they lost for violating the agreement. But in the case with Google, which recently ended, a jury found that Google's App Store was an illegal monopoly and has forced them to open up the App Store to third parties for the next 3 years, and they can't force apps to use their payment system. Basically, the way both Apple and Google worked before is if you were on their App Store and you took money, you had to use their payment system, which gave them a cut of the profits. Now, the article points out that Apple's case with Epic wasn't a jury trial, whereas the Google one was, so maybe that's why there was a difference. But I don't know anything about law, so I'm not going to speculate on it at all. Of course, Google is appealing the decision, and they even noted that Apple won their case, so they should have won. But for now, they're forced to basically allow third-party payment methods on the App Store. They can't force apps to use their payment method if they don't want to. As a result of this decision, there are also other things that Google is restricted from doing, like paying apps to be on their store exclusively. But for the sake of this story, we're going to focus on the payment part because that's most likely what led Microsoft to announce that they're allowing people to purchase apps and play certain games on the Google Play Store. So starting November 1st on the Google Play Store version of the Xbox app, Microsoft is allowing purchases through the app as well as the ability to play games. Now, they haven't specified what games they're going to offer, if they're going to be streaming only or if you can actually download and play these games natively, but it certainly makes it easier if you're on the Xbox app and you're like, oh, I want to purchase a license for this game. You could just hit the button and buy it. If you were to do a purchase right now, you'd have to go to the website in the browser to complete the purchase. Now, when Xbox President Sarah Bond made the announcement, she mentioned that it was because of the Epic versus Google trial, but she didn't say why they decided to do this. But if I had to guess, it's probably because of the whole not having to use Google's payment method and split the revenue with them. Otherwise, I'm sure they'd be doing the same thing on iPhone. Now, of course, I mentioned before that Google is still trying to appeal the decision, so this could change, but for now, it looks like you'll finally be able to purchase licenses for Xbox games directly through the Xbox app via the Google Play Store. And one of those games could possibly be a new and improved Halo with a not so new and renamed studio behind the game. So it was rumored a while ago that 343 may be moving Halo to Unreal Engine. At the time, one of the concerns was that it could make the game feel and play different since all of the previous games have been built on a version of their current engine, Slipspace. Well, Microsoft put out a mini documentary confirming that Halo is indeed moving to Unreal Engine 5, and they've been working on a Project Foundry, which isn't a game, it's basically them building and testing different aspects of what they would typically do when they build a Halo game in Unreal Engine 5. So I'm guessing everything went pretty well since they decided to move forward with using Unreal Engine 5. Now, from the studio's perspective, this would be less work because they're not having to build and maintain an engine plus make a game. They can focus on just making a game. In the video, they kind of talk about how this is a new era for Halo, which is why I'm guessing they renamed the studio from 343 Industries to Halo Studios. Now, of course, they didn't provide any information on what the first Halo game would be on UE5. It could be something new, but there was also a rumor that they were remaking Halo Combat Evolved in UE5, so we'll see how this all works out. They also mentioned that they're staffing up, so obviously they're working on something. Now, personally, I'm a huge Halo fan. It's one of my favorite franchises, so I'm excited to see what the future of Halo looks like and how it's going to play on Unreal Engine 5. But Halo's shift to Unreal Engine wasn't the only rumor we saw come to fruition. So back in August, a listing on the PlayStation Store for the remastered version of Red Dead Redemption briefly had a part about it being available on PC for the first time that was quickly removed because they hadn't announced the PC version yet, and also as part of this weird trend that's been happening lately where store pages go up early and reveal not yet announced information, and obviously if it's a store page, then you can pretty much guess that it's going to happen. Well, Rockstar finally announced that Red Dead Redemption 1 is coming to PC for the first time on October 29th. It's going to be $50 and it's going to support a lot of the things you'd expect on a PC port, like you can run the game at 144 Hz. It's going to have DLSS and ultra-wide monitor support. So yeah, it's about time they put that game on PC. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2 has been on PC for years, but there was no official way to play the first one on PC until now. The only caveat I've seen mentioned is that it doesn't include the multiplayer portion of the game. Now, personally, I didn't play enough Red Dead Redemption to know how popular it was or how important it was, but it seems to be the only thing that's missing out of this version of the game. But either way, it looks like that leak from the PlayStation Store was true, and Red Dead is on its way to PC. But speaking of PC and PlayStation, one of their games is actually leaving PC, or has already left, I should say. So we talked about Sony doing Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered, which I still think is questionable to call it a remaster. But anywho, it's coming to PS5 and PC on October 31st, and it's a $10 upgrade for people who already have the PS4 or PC version of the original game. Now, we saw them raise the price of the PS4 version of the game from $20 to $40, just to close a loophole, because technically you could have got it for $20 and then paid $10 to upgrade versus paying $50 for the full game. But the PC version, nothing seemed to happen with it until now. So Sony has delisted Horizon Zero Dawn on PC. Basically, if you go to the Steam page, it points to purchasing the remastered version. Now, some people are mad about this because the new version requires a PSN account, which the original version did not. Now, personally, I don't care if it has a requirement or not, but I also live in a country that has PSN. The account requirement has caused issues in countries that don't have PSN. When they attempted to add the PSN requirement to Helldivers 2, months after the game had already been out, the only solution for people in countries without PSN was to refund them, and then ultimately they backpedaled on the whole thing anyway. But generally speaking, making an account isn't that big of a deal because some PC games require it anyway. But at least if the original was still available, that would open it up to more people. I understand them delisting it because similar to the PS4 version of the game, the original PC version could be had for really cheap, but it sucks that it may be affecting people's ability to play the game at all now. So I want to make a correction from my previous story when I said you could purchase Horizon Remastered from Steam, because they don't use that language anymore when it comes to buying games. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about a new law in California going into effect starting on the 1st of next year, where basically companies can't use the word purchase to refer to buying a license for digital media. Well, it looks like Valve is already getting ahead of that by putting a disclaimer on the checkout page of Steam when you go to buy a license for a game. So now if you check out on Steam, it will show a message saying a purchase of a digital product grants a license to the product on Steam with a link to their full user agreement. Now, as far as the game pages, that hasn't really changed because they didn't have a purchase button, they just had add to cart, and in the cart it has continue to payment. So it's not really a big change for their store, but either way, they're the first major store of note to make this change. I'm interested to see how Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo handle this change in the future. And speaking of Nintendo, they finally announced some new hardware for your bedroom. And that's what we're talking about today. And our final story? So we've been desperately waiting for Nintendo to finally announce the Switch 2, and it looks like they announced some new hardware. Now, I hope you're staying awake for me to cover this exciting new hardware, but if not, you might want to pick up Nintendo's new alarm clock. So Nintendo did a 5-minute video to announce their new alarm clock called Alarmo. It's $100, and right now it's only available to purchase if you're subscribed to Switch Online. But basically, it's a fancy Nintendo-themed alarm clock. The alarms are themed based on 5 games right now: Mario Odyssey, Pikmin 4, Splatoon 3, Ring Fit Adventure, and Breath of the Wild. But they said they'll have more alarms available for free in the future. The navigation on the device is done by the dial on the top. You basically turn it left and right to select things, and then press the top to confirm. So it looks like it's pretty easy to use. It also detects motion and can track how often you move when you sleep. And it actually detects when you get out of bed. That's how it shuts the alarm off. Now, the motion detection is actually the thing that's kind of questionable. As the Kotaku article points out, since it stops the alarm when you get out of bed, it may not work well if there's more than one person in the bed. And this information actually came from Nintendo's FAQ. But luckily, there's an easy solution. Just stay single. But yeah, Nintendo did an alarm clock, which I would say is alarming. See what I did there? But we're also talking about the company that made a VR headset and a piano out of cardboard. So I'm not that surprised. At this point, if Nintendo says they have a hardware announcement, it could be anything. I mean, it could be a bubblegum watch. Who knows? Now, obviously, most people nowadays don't need an alarm because they have their cell phone that does that, but I actually think it's kind of cool. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be buying one. Anyway, I don't know if I'm going to be buying one.
You probably placed the order already.
Now, I don't know if I'm going to be buying one, especially because I do sleep with someone else. But overall, I think it's just a fun, harmless thing that a lot of collectors will probably pick up. All right, Nintendo, stop playing and announce the system already. We thirsty. But let me know how you feel in the comments about Alarmo, and do you think Nintendo should cover the cost of divorces for couples who inevitably break up so they can use Alarmo? Again, let me know down below, and if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to tell a friend, tell a coworker, like, share, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button thing to be notified when I drop a video or a live stream. And always do at least 2 things at the same time. Peace.